Rocking out here on a Monday morning. What's happening, everybody? It's Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Bespris, and it's weekend in review time on the show. We'll go reverse chronological lightning round style. Sunday, then Saturday, and then if we need to go back to Friday, we will, to cover every single team's most recent ball game and get you reset for the week ahead. Follow me on Twitter at Dan Bespris, DANBESBRIS. I will insist upon it. A lot of news breaks in between podcasts. You must be on social media if you want to win your anything tougher than the lightest of fantasy leagues. Intermediate, expert, whatever, you must. I'm Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. Again, Dan Bespris on Twitter. Old Man Squad Fantasy on Instagram, but that's for video shorts. If that's your jam, that's where those are. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. They've got, count it out with me, folks, the earliest odds, in-game live betting, the ability to watch the games as they happen, the largest selection of odds. Football, NBA, college hoops, NHL, UFC, the list goes on and on and on. Head to BetOnline today. They've been such a great partner for us, so please head to BetOnline today. And don't forget to use our promo code as part of our umbrella network. The Believe Network, BLEAV, is the code. For your welcome bonus, get a welcome bonus on that first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. This is a very small version. There's a much larger version of what Sunday looked like in the association. We're going to go backwards through these 6 ball games. Again, we'll just take it sort of piece by piece. Sunday was 6. Saturday was 9? It gets us through almost all the teams in the NBA, and I've been trying to do a better job of looking to see who didn't play over the weekend. Toronto, come on, the other one's in there. Dallas, right? Aren't they the only 2? I don't know. We'll triple check ourselves as we go, but we'll just pull out every interesting factoid as we move, hopefully at a relatively fast clip. I would also ask you guys at the beginning of the show today, please go hit a pre-thumbs up on our trade deadline live show. It's up to 383. I definitely want us up and over 400 today. Can we get to 1,000 before February 6th? Pre-likes, so that sucker hits the algorithm at full speed when we start the show. Okay, that's enough pre-show crap. Sorry, guys, a little bit more here to start the Monday. Now we're into the action. Boston lost at OKC. Thunder win their 15th game in a row. There's really nothing to talk about on the Boston side. The starters were there, and like everybody was kind of meh. Jason Tatum sort of survived the game. So did Porzingis. I guess Jaylen Brown wasn't too bad. 4 of the 5 starters were okay. Drew Holiday didn't shoot the ball well, but he did have 8 boards and 6 assists. Everything's fine. Let's keep moving. We got 30 teams to get through. We can't be screwing around with teams that we kind of know what's up. Peyton Pritchard, he has cooled off just a little bit lately, down to number 68. As we've been saying all season long, if you could sell him for someone inside the top 75 or 80 when he gets hot, you do it. Now you probably are stuck for a little bit. Thunder, like the Celtics, not much there. Lou Dort has been like the definition of okay all year. He's number 102, and I couldn't possibly come up with a guy who is more the cutoff line between am I excited about this and am I not? I would treat Dort in most formats as a very, very good schedule play, but if you're in a roto league or a games cap league and you're overflowing with turnovers, he's a guy that can kind of help pivot that back in the right direction and get you a few threes and a couple of steals along the way. What I'd like to see out of the Thunder, and it happened for a little bit and then it stopped happening and now it's kind of happening again, is consistent Case and Wallace. That's what I want. I don't think I'm asking so much here. Just give him his minutes and don't screw around with it. But he got yanked around a bit. Some was coming out of the NBA Cup, and then he had a 17-minute game against the Clippers. Around that, he's had 31, 32, 32, 35, 30. Did have a game off in there. I think he was sick. I don't even remember. But he has 12 steals over his last 5 games. That's always going to be a thing that's there. And if you can get him, if you could come into my room and tell me, don't come into my room, that Cason Wallace is going to play 30 minutes or more, I'd say, great, punt points, add him immediately. But I don't know. Right now, it seems like he will. But tomorrow he might not. Isaiah Joe might play more in the next one. There's a matchup thing that goes on with these teams. New Orleans got a much-needed win over a Wizards team that had to lean even harder into the tank to make sure that they lost to the Pelicans. Wizards are a robust 6-27. That's the worst record in the NBA. Second worst record belongs to the Pelicans. It's a 194 win percentage. Poor Hornets. It's time to get better, guys. Anyway, Trey Murphy turned an ankle in this one. Let's hope that it doesn't keep him out. If it does, I think you probably just see more for the other regulars. I'm keeping one half of one eye on Jose Alvarado. We talked about that before. Should his minutes trend up, but they haven't, so you don't need to do anything about that yet. Otherwise, just keep trotting out the same dudes there. Wizards do deserve a little bit of our attention, though. This will be the first team that we slow down on for a minute. Kyle Kuzma had 28 with no Jordan Poole and Malcolm Brogdon getting hurt halfway through. So this is, I think you guys know where I'm going with this, the perfect sell time on Kuzma, whose fantasy game I hate. For a 9-cat, you have to be punting probably one, maybe two things to get him sort of over that threshold to useful. And he's on the trade block, and he's a shutdown candidate. There's all these bad things hanging around him, but he's going to put up some numbers at some point. Try to sell him. See if you can get anyone inside the top 100 for Kyle Kuzma after a good ball game. Literally anybody. Alex Sarr remains kind of an active stash type. Malcolm Brogdon being hurt again, he's one of those guys that I'm actually comfortable dropping when he's hurt and then trying to pick him up when he's back. Because if you miss, who cares? Someone else is going to pick him up, and then he's going to be hurt 2 weeks later. So you're just missing out on the 2 weeks of healthy Brogdon at a time. So whatever. Wait and find out if he gets ruled out for the next ball game and you can't put him on your IL. I would probably move on. Jonas Valanciunas is the softest hold recommendation I can possibly give. We know he's on the block, but I don't know that that helps him necessarily because I don't think he's going anywhere where he's playing more than 21, 22 minutes in a ball game. Like, even if he ends up in LA with the Lakers, they're not going to run him out there for long stretches. He's going to be a guy they deploy against big opposing front courts, so Anthony Davis doesn't have to try to rebound by himself. But he's a massive liability on defense. And so I don't know. Find me a team that's going to play JV more than 22 minutes, and I'll get more excited about it. But it sure feels like this is who he's going to be this year, which is sort of like barely startable. I don't know. I feel like we dodged a bullet on that one. His ADP kept getting pushed higher, and then I was like, yeah, I don't want this. It's not worth it anymore. Because he was always a first half play, assuming he was going to get traded, but he needed to be a good first half play. I wasn't going to blow an 8th round pick on that. If I'm getting a guy that I know is done after 3 months, I'm getting them 10th round or later. Justin Champagnie is a guy to keep an eye on. There aren't enough guys out yet for him to be statistically relevant, at least not consistently. If Kuzma gets moved, if JV gets moved, if Brogdon gets shut down, and then you're looking at like Bub, Poole, Sarr, and Champagnie, then I would probably do it. But right now, not yet. And then Bub Carrington had a better ball game here, but because he shot well, that's really the story. He's also kind of inching towards active stash territory, but we would need Poole to be out and Brogdon probably for more than just a game-to-game thing. So not quite yet there on Bub. Hornets got their main guys back, but they played one of the 2 best teams in the NBA right now. So, But, at least we got 4 guys you can start. Brandon Miller, Mark Williams, Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball. Don't worry about the rest of these guys. I don't care that Cody Martin and Nick Smith Jr. had decent games. You're not playing other dudes while those 4 main guys are healthy. Cavs are also they're a wrecking machine. Super low minutes for their main guys because they blow everybody out. Which is funny. It almost makes the main guys a little bit of a buy low. Like, Donovan Mitchell's number 24. He's doing it on 31 minutes a game. Darius Garland is number 30. He's doing it on 30 minutes a game. I'm not like, you're not going to buy on Evan Mobley, but he's doing it in 30 minutes a game. If this team ever had to play competitive basketball games, which I think at some point they will, but yeah, I mean, you're hair splitting a little bit there. Utah got another monster offensive game out of Bryce Sensabaugh. Where the hell did that come from? Back-to-back big ones. And after the first big one, I was like, yeah, he's not going to do this again. And then he did it again, right in my face. Smashed a pie right in my clown face. Well, I'm going to try it again. He ain't going to do this again. I really don't think so. Now, the previous one was more surprising than this one because Utah actually had some of their guys in for the game before this one. Utah rested everybody because they really wanted to make sure they lost to a Magic team that has like nobody left on it. Poor Orlando, man. They're so dinged up right now. But Utah accidentally won the game anyway with Walker Kessler and Colin Sexton as the only two guys that they really thought they were going to have to play minutes this year. Jordan Clarkson was out. Keontae George was out. John Collins was out. Lauri Markkanen was out. 4 of the top 6 rotation guys were out. And so, yeah, I mean, Sexton took 18 shots. Sensabaugh took 19. Nobody else took more than 9, which is why you probably don't screw around with the maybe guys in Utah and just wait until the regulars come back. Make your life simple. Probably a little bit of that same story with Orlando. Guys like Cole Anthony, Tristan Da Silva, these were really popular. KCP, very popular injury plays with no Suggs, no Paolo, no Franz, obviously no Mo Wagner. He's out for the year. And the Magic are just so bad without those guys that nobody really did anything on offense other than Jet Howard, who I don't think anybody picked that dude up. And if you did, congrats, bud. Cole Anthony was at least close. He had 3 blocks and he took 14 shots, but 0 assists was very surprising on Cole. Goga is spared of this. Missed all 4 of his free throws, but that was sort of unusual for him. Otherwise, Goga was normal Goga. That's fine. Tristan Da Silva was bad. KCP was absolutely wretched. So honest to goodness, this game was so surprising to me that I don't even really know what to tell you for the next one because they were playing a team in Utah that you figured, all right, well, this is a team that doesn't really guard anybody. Someone on this Magic team is going to make something happen. Now they got to go in and play the Knicks. Possibly with this same slapdick lineup. I would probably go with Goga and Cole Anthony. Probably. KCP would be my 3rd choice. Da Silva would be my 4th. But you're moving pretty far down the list at that point. Lakers and Rockets played a fun one. Lakers fell behind by 22, but made it quite competitive late. Rockets got a huge one out of Jalen Green, or they probably wouldn't have hung on in this game. AD, LeBron, Austin Reeves are your easy plays for the Lakers. Max Christie, when he's running warm, which he is right now, he's over the cut line, but I don't trust that he's going to shoot 55% long term, which is basically where he's been the last week and a half. Dorian Finney-Smith, his role is increasing. Rui's role is decreasing. I don't think it's going to matter from a fantasy standpoint, more reality. So just play the 3 main guys. Christie is a schedule play, and that's probably about as far as you go, unless the team has a great schedule, and then you could look at DFS and Rui Hachimura. On the Rockets side, the big story, I mean, obviously Jalen Green having a big game is a nice story, but that moved him up to number 130 on the shoulders of this gigantic one. He's a punt field goal guy. If you have him on a team where you're not punting field goal, you should be selling him to someone who is punting field goals. I thought the really fun story on the Rockets side was, hey, what are the rotations going to look like when Amen Thompson's suspension is over and Jabari Smith Jr. now is out for a couple of months? And the answer was very good for our good friend Amen Thompson. This is basically why you held all season long. We talked about it week after week after week. The Rockets were unbelievably healthy to this point in the year. And so you knew at some point the other shoe was going to drop. And forget Tari Eason, because he was putting up nice numbers, but he was doing it in 22 bench minutes. That's not the guy. We're talking about the dudes that were standing in Amen Thompson's way. Alperen Şengün, Freddie VanVleet, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Dillon Brooks, the starting five. One of those guys was eventually going to have to miss a game, and now it's Jabari Smith Jr. for a while. Because Şengün hasn't missed any games. Jalen Green hadn't missed any games. VanVleet had missed 2 to this point. And Dillon Brooks, like, last week missed a couple, and we got to see Amen Thompson go huge. So now all of a sudden, Thompson's up to number 110 with just a couple of games as a starter under his belt. Now, admittedly, he's a bad foul shooter. He went 1 for 4 in this ball game. It's going to be a thing that holds him back because he also is a big-time attack dude. But who cares? 23 points, 16 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. I mean, most days he'll probably get more than 1 steal, and most days the turnovers will be lower. Enjoy it. You waited patiently. You sort of paid it forward. It's amen time now. Sacramento didn't need De'Aaron Fox to take care of a Warriors team that, in my mind, is bad. And maybe I'm... I mean, whatever. We don't need to go down the Warriors rabbit hole right now. For the Kings, if De'Aaron Fox sits, Malik Monk is the big winner because he goes into full point guard mode. That's awesome. Great opportunity to sell high on Malik Monk because you saw what he was when he was hot. You saw what he was when he wasn't. Now you're seeing what he is when there's no other point guard. Domantas Sabonis is the next point guard, basically. It's good for him, but he's not going to be. This is like this is a first round line. He's not a first rounder when De'Aaron Fox is in the lineup, which is most of the time. And I don't know, Fox might miss another ball game tonight. Even if you traded Monk, it wouldn't go through immediately. De'Aaron's got a sore butt. Not kidding. That's the injury right now. Keegan Murray came back, so it was 1 in, 1 out, like a very popular nightclub. Dan says like he's ever been to a popular nightclub. So Keon Ellis stayed with the starters. He just shifted down and played point guard instead. Basically, we still don't know if Keon Ellis is going to keep starters level minutes when the main guys are back, meaning Monk, Fox, DeRozan, Keegan Murray, and Domantas Sabonis. When all 5 of those guys are in, can Keon Ellis get 25 or more minutes? I think the play here, I said this on Saturday's weekly review show. I think the play here with Ellis is you pick him up as an injury replacement basically everywhere, and then you see what it looks like that first game when Fox and everybody are back. And I did this in a few spots, so I'm not blowing smoke. I tried to add Keon Ellis in a bunch of places. I already have Dyson Daniels in a lot of spots, so I didn't need the steals as much, but we just want to see how it goes. It's an ad. It's an injury ad hoping for an injury ad with benefits. Like Monk was, actually. Monk was an injury ad for DeMar DeRozan, and then he just stuck in the starting 5 for Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter. Warriors were bad. I think we can effectively drop Dennis Schroeder. We've given him a nice chance with Golden State to see if he could function. Nope. So we did our due diligence there. We gave him plenty of time. The only time he had good lines was when Steph Curry was out, and then he had one other good one in there. Trayce Jackson-Davis, hold. This is a really bad game. And we're seeing that there are certain types of big men on opposite sides that he struggles with, mainly the strong ones. So if you want to be extra cautious with Trayce Jackson-Davis against a games cap, maybe you sit him against big, powerful centers like Embiid, like Sabonis. But most teams in the NBA don't employ guys like that. Otherwise, don't make any adjustments on this Warriors game because they got smoked. Let's look at Saturday. Philly. Joel Embiid is questionable for every ball game lately, but he's been playing in them, so I'm not going to worry until he tells me to. Otherwise, Paul George, still a little bit of a buy low. Tyrese Maxey is due to cool off a bit. He's been running at a first-round clip. Caleb Martin had a nice game, but he also shot 7 out of 8, so we move along. The Nets. Okay, here's another let's pause for, 2 to 3 minutes instead of 30 seconds team. Zaire Williams had a nice ball game here in only 22 minutes. Keon Johnson had a nice game in 36 minutes. D'Lo left with a shin contusion. Nick Claxton had been playing better, but of course was dealing with Joel Embiid. Jalen Wilson got 33 minutes. Noah Clowney got 19 and was craptastic. Cam Johnson is out with an ankle sprain. Cam Thomas is out with a hamstring injury after the calf thing. That leaves us with D'Lo as a maybe, and then that you see before you is the rest of what Brooklyn has available to them right now. Here's what I would do with the Nets. D'Lo, obviously, if he's in, you play him. Claxton, you play him. The other guys that I would normally play, the Cams, effectively, are out for multiple games. Cam Thomas out for multiple weeks. So we don't have to worry about that immediately. And Brooklyn has a game tonight, Monday night. I think you can drop Noah Clowney. He's not showing the stuff we saw towards the end of last year. And I don't know if it's because we're still in January, so he's not playing against other scrubs yet, the way that silly season can kind of bring out better stat lines in other scrub level guys. But like right now, a lot of guys are out and Noah Clowney still only played 19 minutes. If I'm going to be holding him, I need to see him getting like a consistent mid to high 20s, even if the stats weren't there. If the minutes were there, I'd be all about it. But the minutes weren't even there. My Brooklyn play is Keon Johnson right now. I like the boards. I like the assists. He basically became the point guard when D'Lo went out. If D'Lo's in, I don't even care about Ben Simmons anymore. That dude is so beyond washed, and his minutes are not high enough. Although, I guess now if D'Lo's out and Simmons is in, you might consider him for a one-day plug-and-play kind of thing. Consider it. It certainly wouldn't be a long-term deal, but you might get something out of Simmons if he's kind of like the last man standing. So a couple of options here. If D'Lo is in, I don't think I'm playing Simmons. I think I would go D'Lo, Claxton, and Keon Johnson. I think I'm doing Keon Johnson regardless. Certainly even more so if D'Lo is out. Did that about cover it? Minnesota, well, finally got a good one out of Anthony Edwards. 53 points. He had been so cold prior to this one. Pushed him back up to number 35. He had fallen into the 40s after a prolonged bad stretch. Minnesota still lost the game. Man alive, did they screw with something so nice. Wolves are 17-17. They were one of the top teams in the NBA last year. Meanwhile, the Knicks are 24-12. Because you just want top-end talent. You just want top-end talent, and Julius Randle is not that. Man, oh man, oh man. Naz Reid, I think I'm settling on. I know he got hot for a couple of ball games in there. I think he's probably an injury replacement guy at this point. And the Wolves, like the Rockets up until a couple days ago, have been inordinately healthy. And to be 500 team when they haven't even lost anybody is a bad look for Minnesota. Rudy Gobert has been awful. He is both awful and a buy low. Because it really, we're at the bottoming out point for him. He's number 91. He's not rebounding. He's not scoring. He's not blocking shots. It's not going to get any worse. I guess they could bench him for Naz Reid. That would be how it might get worse. And then oh, no, why did we drop Naz Reid? So maybe that's the reason to hang on, because it does kind of feel like something's got to give for Minnesota. Dante DiVincenzo, the minutes are still there. The production has cooled after kind of a warm stretch for him that pushed him from outside the top 200 to number 167. I'm not using Dante against a games cap. He's inside the top 100 over the last 3 weeks on about 28 minutes a game, shooting 47%. It's kind of close to repeatable, but maybe not really. He's a low upside play. I think you could hold him if you need that sort of plotting 100 range kind of dude. If you're hunting upside, he probably is someone you could still consider as a drop. Jaden McDaniels is a schedule play. Conley's a drop. Who the hell am I not talking about on this Wolves team? Yeah, I mean, try to hold on to Naz and Gobert just to see what happens. Ausar Thompson had 10 and 10 with 6 steals on a perfect 5 for 5 shooting in this last game in 26 minutes. That's not a thing he's going to be able to do every day in 26 minutes. As much as he is an absolute freak, like his brother, these are guys that are going to be field goal percent decent, rebounding solid. We knew that was going to be a thing for Ausar Thompson, and steals. Those are the 3 categories. We talked about it on the show. If he's going to have success, he's going to have to be huge in those 3 categories. And he did that in this last ball game. Went crazy big. Here's the thing, though. For Thompson, He hasn't made a free throw since December 26th. He's 0 for his last 5 at the foul line. He's averaging 1 assist, almost 3 turnovers, and only 7 points a game. Over what I would argue is about as good a stretch as you're going to get out of him. He has 11 steals in his last 3 ball games, and he's still not inside the top 200 because of the bad turnovers, the bad free throw shooting, the lack of scoring, the lack of passing. It is, I think, a little bit of a human, like the human mind is playing tricks on us a tad, because we see the giant steals, we see the giant rebounds, we saw the 5 for 5 shooting, and our brain goes, holy crap. And obviously this last ball game, if he averaged 10 and 10 with 6 steals on 100% shooting, that's a first round line. But he's not going to do that. And we've seen plenty of other games where he's played 25, 26 minutes. It's not that. The steals are going to be good. The rebounds are going to be decent. Probably doesn't get all the way up to 10 in 25, 26 minutes. I'm thinking 8 would be a good scenario. But then what else is there? Is he going to average 7 points? 1.5 assists? Bad, awful, like frankly, really bad free throw? This is why, and I don't mean to be the buzzkill guy here, because it was a really fun game for Thompson. He looked amazing, flying through the air. The highlight of him catching an inbound alley-oop after the clock expired was crazy. But he's also a sell high on a game like this, because this is the pinnacle performance. On the flip side, Malik Beasley's a guy to roster for the rest of the year. Easy call there. Once Jaden Ivey went down, that was an easy one. Jalen Duren, I told you guys, sell high. Anytime he has a good game, sell high, because Isaiah Stewart is constantly coming for his minutes. The other good news from this game, Tobias Harris, 13 shots again, 16 and 11 with 4 assists, a couple of 3 balls. He's another guy that's going to get a nice bump with Jaden Ivey out. So sell high on Thompson. Beasley and Tobias are much better shape. Sell high on Jalen Duren when you can, and look for Cade Cunningham to just have to do a lot of stuff. Phoenix are kind of burying the lead a little bit there because they didn't play on Sunday, but they did make the biggest splash in the NBA on Sunday by announcing that Ryan Dunn and Mason Plumlee are taking Bradley Beal's and Yusuf Nurkic's spot in the starting 5. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, they're both going to be fine in all of this. Frankly, I think Bradley Beal is going to be fine coming off the bench. He'll come in and he'll still play probably high 20s to 30 minutes. He'll get his shots up. It's not good for him, but it's not going to totally sink Beal. This does likely sink Nurkic, who was super annoying to roster anyway, and someone that I had avoided in every single league. He got dropped in one league, and I picked him up, and he was fine. He was hovering around top 100 range, but he's super obnoxious to roster, so you can move on from Nurk. I don't think you need to pick up Plumlee. I think this just means that he and Nurk are going to be splitting minutes, but Mason's going to have like the first crack at 24 instead of the last crack at 24. And Ryan Dunn in starters minutes, I don't think he's a top 100 guy. The guy I'm hoping gets a more consistent push is Grayson Allen, but I don't know that you need to, like for Roto, I don't think that I would play any of those guys. Durant, Booker, and probably still Beal against a games cap. The other thing that's complicating matters, and that's forcing you to sort of make your move fast, the Suns have a 5-game week. So if you're in a head-to-head league, all of these guys are getting picked up today because their schedule is great. Even if they suck for 5 games, it's still going to give you something because it's 5 damn games. So it's a conundrum because I'd love to watch list Grayson Allen and Plumlee and Dunn and whatever, but you kind of don't have the opportunity to wait because everybody's going to be adding them. Nothing special out of Indiana. It's kind of the same old stuff. Andrew Nembhard, he hit 2 3-pointers in this game. I still think he's a punt threes guy. Mathurin warming back up a little bit here, but not a guy that I'm starting in most formats. And then Tyrese Halliburton, just like he's good now. So fear not. We talked Utah already. Miami is without Jimmy Butler basically in perpetuity. I know they suspended him for 7 games, but he ain't coming back. Nikola Jovic had 17 here. He's had like 2 good games in his last 4, but also no one really knows who the hell is going to do anything for the Heat. It's been Jaquez sometimes. It's been Robinson sometimes. It's been Jovic sometimes. It's been Burke sometimes. It's been Rozier sometimes. I don't want any of these guys. At least not on a games cap league. Miami, I think, has a decent schedule to start the week, if I'm remembering right. Yeah, they go back-to-back here. So, okay, whatever. Like, you could play some of those fringy guys. You could hold them through Thursday if you wanted to. But against the games cap, nah. Portland still without Jeremy Grant. This is sort of the Deni Avdija show right now. His turnovers are bad. But it's kind of a who cares mode because when Grant's out, Avdija gets so many of those power forward minutes, and then he just racks up stats. DeAndre Ayton is going to start getting days off. He was almost held out of a game just because he was sleepy. It was literally listed as rest on a non-back-to-back. He's tired. Man, what's up with that dude? If DeAndre Ayton sits, you'd get a Donovan Clingan game. It doesn't sound like he's gonna, but it's always kind of hovering back there. The quick run through on the Blazers is Avdija, my favorite active stash on the board, especially right now when he's an injury play. Simons, sell high when you can. Ayton, sell high when you can. Grant, out right now, but sell high when you can because Portland is a massive risk to just pull the plug on all these dudes. Toumani Camara is a schedule play right now. If they do end up shutting down all of these guys, he might move above that line. Scoot Henderson is a punt, turnover, punt, field goal play right now that might move above that if the good starts to outweigh the bad, but that would require a lot more usage, and he's not quite there yet. Shaden Sharp is a punt play as well. Boy, Darvin Ham, he talked up Milwaukee not partying after the NBA Cup, but they've been slumping ever since because they're exhausted. The extra games do take something out of these guys. Don't blame it on partying. That's just dumb. Anyway, Bobby Portis continues his recent warm stretch. He's a sell high. Brooke Lopez is a buy low. Middleton is hitting. I talked about this actually on Twitter, I think. Middleton is in that weird in-between where he had a bunch of adrenaline when he first came back and he was ramping up the minutes, and now his body is trying to reacclimate to playing higher, heavier minutes. You could bench him for a week or two if you wanted to in a games cap spot if you're worried that he's in just a little bit of a dead legs. And then when he comes back out of that, you'll know it. Otherwise, Giannis and Dame, you play him through the ups and the downs. Cat left late in this loss against Chicago with a little bit of hamstring tightness. If he sits, you could probably drop Precious Achiuwa into your lineup for one day, but even that's a little bit of a hairy decision. For Chicago, no Io in this one. Lonzo, look, everybody's starting Levine, White, Giddey, and Vooch. Those are easy ones. Lonzo's the question mark right now. He had 8 points, 6 assists. He was, again, one of the better plus-minus guys on the team. That's just the way it works with him. You can always see those guys. Lonzo's one of those guys. Caruso is one of those guys. There's always the but what are they doing thing? When you look at a box score, you don't really notice, but when you watch them play with the team, they just make everybody better. They make the team better. Lonzo's that guy. 8 and 6 with a couple of steals is not enough to really move the needle. And I don't know that he has the juice in him like he used to really move the needle. That said, if he continues to very slowly and incrementally inch up the minutes board, he would become an ad, at least on the games cap side, because I do think he continues to sit in back-to-backs. There's just sort of no reason for Chicago to push him super hard. I added him in one Roto league, and then I had a guy come off the IL, and I had to immediately drop him, but that's how close it is for me to making Lonzo a games cap ad. Denver and San Antonio had a back-to-back. Denver won the second one. Spurs won the first one. For the Nuggets right now, you're starting the starters. No Aaron Gordon, and Russell Westbrook is in there in his place. For San Antonio, there was no Jeremy Sohan for the first one of these. He was back. Actually, wait, that was a couple games back. Either way, they had their guys for this one. That's the important thing. So Wemby's a start. Sohan's a start. More so in a punt threes or punt free throw build, to be honest. Devin Vassell is a start in all formats. Chris Paul's a start in all formats. I know you had a bad ball game here, but whatever. One bad one. And then when everybody comes back, which they are, Julian Champagny is now off the table again. Memphis is in a little bit of a weird spot. They rested a bunch of guys, or a couple of guys, not a bunch, a couple of guys for this game against the Warriors, and they lost it. Look, like JJJ's an obvious one. Desmond Bane's an obvious one. I still think Scottie Pippen Jr. is a reasonable fill-in for Ja Morant. But when Luke Kennard was back, he actually was better. But Kennard hurt his hamstring because he can never play full minutes for more than a week. And he tried to, and then he hurt himself again. So, drop Kennard because you can't take zeros. Bane, by the way, also doubtful, dealing with an ankle thing. So if he's out, I mean, you might get enough out of Jalen Wells in that spot, but the efficiency is going to be bad. So probably JJJ, Pippen, if Bane's healthy, obviously him. And then Zach Edey is the other guy you want to have there. Obviously, Ja Morant, too. I don't think I'm going beyond those guys. We talked Warriors already. I forgot to mention the Jonathan Kuminga thing. He's out for 3 weeks at least, which probably makes life a little bit easier for Trayce Jackson-Davis, who then promptly had a bad ball game after that. Also, you're going to get more out of Draymond. So, just the other guys around. I thought it might leave a little bit more usage for Schroeder, which he got in this one, but that was because Steph was out for this game as well. Clippers got Kawhi back. I don't even care about the Hawks side. They were without Jalen Johnson for this one. This ball game was over early. Trae Young still played 34 minutes for whatever reason, but Clippers were pretty firmly in command. You're not making any ads or drafts on Atlanta from this ball game. Just a reminder that Clint Capella has been very bad lately and should not be started outside of punt free throw teams, and even those, it's kind of iffy. Okongwu is a guy that is a little bit safer when Jalen Johnson is resting, but really you just need Capella out of the way. Man, I wish Larry Nance was around for this. He's out for a couple of weeks at least, though. Clippers side, no big stories here. I mean, other than Kawhi. Like, if you're thinking about the other dudes, like Zubats was still good. Powell was still good. Kawhi playing 19 minutes is not going to severely impact these other guys, but it's just nice to see Kawhi back out there. Probably he'll be around 20 minutes for another couple of ball games. Once we get him up to about 22, 23, I would use him in a games cap format. Obviously, if you're not in games cap, I don't know why the hell you drafted him if you aren't in a capped format. But God help you, if you did it, you're just playing him now. Preferably, you've waited this long to use him against the cap. You can wait another week. It's not that big of a deal. It's just good to see him out there. That's the nice news there. And then Toronto and Dallas, the two teams that did not play over the weekend. Toronto is expecting to have their main guys back around now. RJ Barrett is expected back, so he'll join Emmanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes, and they'll kind of, at long last, have their big three together since I think, is that the first time all year? Yeah, because Quickley, Barrett was out at the very beginning, then Quickley's been out for a while, and Barnes was out in between. Grady Dick is cooked, by the way, with all those guys back. RJ Barrett's going to trend down. Quickley's going to do a little bit less than he was here. The big assist numbers probably won't be quite that large. Barnes should be started. Quickley should be started. Pirtle should be started. Barrett, if you're in a hard punt build or points league, should be started, not Roto 9 cap. And that's Toronto, so that's a pretty easy one. And then Dallas, Kyrie Irving already got ruled out for this next ball game. So it's going to be a pretty similar lineup to what we saw on Friday, which was a surprisingly awful game out of Spencer Dinwiddie. That was very surprising. I think, look, with Kyrie and Luka both out, I think you can pretty safely play Grimes, Clay, and Dinwiddie. I'd be very surprised if he was this bad again. Oh, and PJ and Lively. I was just talking about the sort of more fill-in level guys. So Lively and PJ are the guys that stay in regardless, but the guys that move over the cut line because of Luka and Kyrie being out are Grimes, Clay, and Spencer. And I know Spencer had one of the worst games on the board. I think you get a bounce-back game out of him in the next one. Oh, man, it's hard to go through the whole weekend in a half an hour. We did it in 40, though, so let's wrap this sucker up. I'm Dan Bespris for Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Like the show, subscribe to the channel, pre-like our trade deadline live show. That's maybe the most important thing right now, beyond just a subscription. Follow on Twitter at Dan Bespris, and I'll be back in just a few hours with the Top Ads episode of the show. We'll see you then.